Welcome into First Pitch for Thursday, June 8th. I am Drew Martin, joined by Teddy Covers, Bryan Power, and Adam Trigger of WagerTalk.com. Guys, we got a Thursday slate here with some early games. So getting the show out early on Thursdays. And reminder here before we get into the games, it is half off pricing for all plays at WagerTalk.com. So Thursday's a great day to check it out. We're gonna head big game breakdown here right at the top. Our leadoff hitter, Bryan Power. Bryan, what do you got for big game breakdown?
Thanks, Drew. Today's big game breakdown, we're going to look at the Cubs at the Angels, Thursday's late game. The Angels going for a series sweep today, but I think it's tough to like them as a favorite with Reed Detmers on the mound. Not only is Detmers winless in 10 starts this season, guys, but we're talking about a 5.15 ERA, a 1.54 whip, and he's allowed 6 or more hits in 6 of his last 8 starts. So not a reliable starter on the mound for the Halos at all. And this should be a spot where a Cubs team that has struggled to score recently. They've scored just 2 runs in just 2 of their last 33 innings, pardon me. They should theoretically get back on track against the struggling Detmers. The Cubs lineup, where they do excel, they actually lead the league in pitches seen per plate appearance. So I think they can very likely work Detmers deep into counts every at bat, and Detmers, as a result, has a pretty short outing. Now, I don't think there's much of an argument that the Cubs starter for Thursday, Drew Smyly, isn't better than Detmers. Smyly's got a lower ERA, a lower whip. In fact, his 1.10 whip isn't all that bad. But interestingly, the Cubs, their bullpen has had their struggles in this series. High leverage arms used yesterday. So the best bet from a side perspective here might just be to take the Cubs in the first 5 innings with the better starter. There probably is going to be runs in this game. A good sell high spot on the Angels in general, being that it's the first time in 2 weeks that they've won 3 in a row. But maybe a lean towards the Cubs in the first 5. And yes, I do expect there to be runs tonight in Anaheim.
Next up here, our 2-hole hitter, Teddy Covers at Teddy_covers on Twitter. Teddy, what do you got for big game breakdown for Thursday?
There's something about the name, Big Game Breakdown. It just rolls off the tongue just right. This is a really interesting game to talk about. I'm going to talk about the Orioles and the Brewers. That's early start today. Baltimore, really short favorites as we're talking right now, near pick'em range. And this is an Orioles team that has not been swept all year, and they've lost the first 2 games of this series. That said, I know they haven't been swept all year. There's only one other time that they lost the first 2 games of a series all year. That's how good they've been. There will be regression for a team like Baltimore. This team is not going to play 600 baseball forever. 37-22 at the start of the series, full year. But they're 4-7 now, their last 11 games. This is their worst stretch of the season. They're kind of a slumping team right now. The one time they lost those first 2 games of a series was at home against Texas. That was less than 2 weeks ago. Kyle Bradish was on the hill for Game 3 of that series, and he pitched a gem, 6.2 innings, 1 run allowed. Who's on the hill today? Kyle Bradish again. But the Rangers game was at home. Now, Bradish has some splits that aren't going to show anything. It's going to show, he's same pitcher, rode home. Don't believe it. Look deeper. Bradish got blown up. 1 bad start at home by the Red Sox in April. So the full season splits don't show anything because he got blown up pretty bad in that start. The last 3 home starts, all excellent, and all versus good lineups like that of the Rangers. His last 4 on the road, well, 0 outs past the 5th inning, 13 earned runs and 18.1 innings of work. The Orioles are 1-3, and the 1 came at Detroit. Not exactly brilliance. Now, Colin Ray's not elite either. He's not eating up innings either. But the Brewers are 4-0 in his last 4 starts. Sounds like I'm kind of making a case for Milwaukee here, and I kind of am. I'm not getting the window with it. The Orioles have the better bullpen. Their key arms didn't pitch yesterday, and I like the character of this team. That's enough for this to stay in the lean category for me. But I certainly lean towards the sweep for the Milwaukee Brewers. Right now, might be able to get them at a plus price.
Next up, the power portion of our lineup. It's Adam Trigger at Top Flight SI on Twitter. Again, Thursdays, guys, half off pricing. Trig, what do you got here for big game breakdown?
So for my big game breakdown here, I'm going to actually look at 2 games, but it's the doubleheader between the White Sox and the Yankees. And I've just kind of talked doubleheader strategy here. So yesterday, of course, the game gets smoked out, I guess we can call it. The of course, air quality, pretty big story, national news. Everyone kind of knows at this point what's going on, causes the game to get pushed back to today, which I actually think helps the White Sox considerably. They had used up their bullpen in the first, couple games of the series, and the White Sox are playing their best ball of the year right now. Nice little win streak. So to get out to win, those games, they needed a number of high leverage relief innings from their bullpen. Liam Hendricks had pitched 3 out of 4 days. He would have been unavailable yesterday. He'll now be available today. But my whole strategy here is pretty much stems around the fact that the Yankees, the past few seasons, when Aaron Judge is on the IL, are a sub 500 team. And even this year, if you look at what the Yankees have done with Judge and without him, 30-19 when he plays, 6-7 when he doesn't, sort of trending in that direction. To be a sub 500 team without Judge, when Judge is hurt, when he's out for a period of time. So the strategy here for me, if I was going to play Yankees White Sox today, I haven't added this to my official card yet, but you're going to get plus money with the White Sox in both legs of the doubleheader. So there's a couple ways you can do this. First, if you just commit to both right out of the gate, then of course, if the White Sox win one of the 2 games, you're at least going to get out with something. Because they're plus money in both games. What I may look to do here is take them in the first game. If they lose the first game, just come back with them in the second game. If they win the first game, maybe I'm just out. I'll take my money and move on. But it's all sort of based on the fact that I don't think the Yankees, with no Judge, against a hot White Sox team, are going to sweep the doubleheader. And of course, you're getting plus money on the White Sox on both sides. So why not, kind of play the value there? Another big issue for the Yankees has been Harrison Bader. He was red hot prior to hitting the IL with a hamstring injury. Looks like he's still going to be out until the weekend. So I think the greater sort of why I'm willing to play the Yankees here. Guys like Stanton who have come back, Donaldson. I don't think they offset the losses of like a Judge, a Harrison Bader who was red hot. Nestor Cortez hadn't been good. He hits the IL, and we'll talk about that, with the pitching in this series. So it looks like game 1, you're going to get Severino against Lance Lynn. Severino's a guy that was on the IL for most of the season, had a lat strain, comes back. He got blown up last time, so I don't know exactly what we're going to get from him. But Lance Lynn, he kind of gets treated like, a bottom of the barrel guy by the bookmakers and like the betting public. He had a really good stretch of starts, three great starts in a row before last time out where he wasn't very good. Now the day off gives him an extra day of rest. So we could get a nice outing from Lance Lynn. In the second game, I really like Mike Clevenger. So he had gone on the IL with a wrist injury. He's back last time out, looked as good at, looked fine, 5 innings shutout. So he's someone I'm willing to back. And the Yankees are going to go with Randy Vasquez. So I kind of mentioned Nestor Cortez. He's going to be shut down for at least 2 weeks. So it's going to be Randy Vasquez making his second career start. Decent stuff. He was good in his debut. But again, like the White Sox, kind of rolling right now, I'd be willing to take my chances there at plus money. So for my big game breakdown, it's really 2 games. And if you're going to get involved with Chicago against New York today in the doubleheader, I look for the plus money with the White Sox. I think you can't. I don't think you're going to do worse with a split. And if you take it in game 1, maybe you just, maybe you get your win and get out of there. But I do think there's value on the White Sox against the Yankees in the Bronx today.
Big game breakdown in the books. It is now time for best bets. Back to the top of the lineup here. Bryan Power, what do you got here for best bets on the Thursday slate?
All right, before we get to today's best bet, just want to remind everybody, it's been a great start to June so far. Won 6 of the first 7 days this month, 16-9 overall. Of course, last night we hit the big 5% play on the first half under in Nuggets Heat. Now 3-0 in the finals, now 6-0 with 5% plays this NBA season, and number 1 with all 5% plays at Wager Talk going back to late December. And we're also number 1 with all MLB going back to last year's playoffs. So that brings us to today's best bet. This is a 3% client play. We're looking at the Orioles and the Brewers, a daytime start, getaway day on Thursday. Just wanted to mention first off, I don't think either of these teams are as good as their respective records say. Milwaukee, you're talking about a division leader with a negative run differential. Baltimore, they've got 4 more wins than expected based on their run differential. So I see this as a pretty even matchup overall. Thus, a Brewers sweep, which is what they're going for today, would really surprise me. Now, I know the Brew Crew had no trouble swinging the bats yesterday, put up 10 runs in a convincing win. But let's not forget, guys, the Orioles have scored far more on the road this season. We're talking 5.4 runs per game than they have at Camden Yards, just 4.3 runs per game. So we're talking more than a full run per game more on the road than at home for the O's. So after a rough 2 days at the plate, at one point they scored just 1 run over 16 innings. I expect the O's to bounce back at the plate this afternoon. And Brewers starter Colin Ray, he may be 3-0 his last 3 starts, but prior to that, he had not won a big league game as a starter since July 1st of 2016. And he has just 1 quality start and 9 trips to the mound this season, not to mention a 5.04 ERA at American Family Field. So not scared of him. I think Kyle Bradish, who is the Orioles starter for Thursday, he's the better pitcher. I know he's got a pretty similar ERA and whip to Ray, but at least Bradish has 4 quality starts under his belt this season. Some other things worth noting, the Orioles have not been swept all season. They've had just 1 3-game losing streak, and it was back in early May. Meanwhile, Milwaukee, they haven't swept a series since mid-May, pardon me. That was against the lowly Royals. Let's keep in mind, going back to the start of last season, everybody, Baltimore has been the most profitable team to bet on in Major League Baseball. I like them today. Best bet, Baltimore Orioles for Thursday.
Next up for best bets, it's Teddy Covers. TC, what do you got for best bets, man?
Look, early start, getaway day, West Coast team on the East Coast. A lot of things point towards the under in Cincinnati as the Dodgers take on the Reds. But you know what? Let's look a little deeper. All right. Scoring gets deflated at many of the pitcher-friendly ballparks in the West Coast. Dodger Stadium, Petco Park certainly stand out as 2 of the most pitcher-friendly parks in all of baseball. So you take a potent offense like that of the Dodgers and put it in more hitter-friendly conditions on the road in parks where the ball tends to carry instead of die, and all of a sudden, sometimes you see some pretty good numbers. Dodgers scored, 6 runs last night, 8 runs in the first game of this series. Both those games have flown over the total with room to spare. This isn't new or different. They went 8-2 to the over on their last road trip. They averaged more than 6 runs per game on that road trip as well. 2-1 to the over on their previous road trip at Milwaukee. I'm not counting the 3 games at Petco in San Diego. They went 6-1 to the over on the road trip before that at Pittsburgh, at Chicago. 4-2 to the over with 1 push in their previous road trip at Arizona, at San Francisco. When you add that all up, we're talking about a way under the radar over trend that is now 22-6-1 in the last 29 tries. Now, both bullpens have gotten used up already in this series, big time. All right. Kershaw's home ERA is $1.50. His road ERA, 3 times higher, more than 3 times higher. Ashcraft for Cincinnati, look at his last 6 starts. Combined runs, 18, 13, 13, 17, 11, 21. Yeah, that's 6-0 to the over. This is a hidden trend. It's likely to stay hidden because you have to manually take out the games against the Angels, the games in San Diego. But Dodgers trending over. Let's ride it, even on getaway day.
Adam Trigger up next here, trying to go 3 for 3, if not 2 for 1 from the analysts on today's show. Throw it over to you, Trig. Adam Trigger, wagertalk.com. What do you got for best bets for Thursday?
So my best bet for the show, I'm going to look to the Diamondbacks Nationals series, and I'm going to look at Nationals plus 1.5. So I want to start by saying this. The Diamondbacks, they're everything I thought they were going to be this season and more. If you watch Wager Talk programming, you'll know how high I am on this team. I played their season win total over before the season. Was my biggest season win total bet. And they're knocking on the door right now of having the best record in the National League. They've won 8 of 10. They've won 17 of 24. If you look out longer over the last month, Corbin Carroll has been one of the best players in baseball. I thought he could win Rookie of the Year, and he's just been incredible. So I really do love this Diamondbacks team, but I've watched them so closely this season that I've had a kind of a good feel of when to back them, when to play against them. And for me, the thing that they still lack a little bit is pitching depth and bullpen depth. And that's where I'm sort of willing. That's where I see some value here in going against them, getting the run and a half with the Nationals. So Nationals, you're looking at +1.5 at around -110. The Nationals have lost 4 straight. They're, I'm not going to say that they're the equivalent caliber of team on a long-term perspective to the Diamondbacks, but in a game-by-game matchup, I don't think they're that much worse. And when you consider the pitching matchup in this game, I do think that this game is relatively even. So Josiah Gray goes for the Nationals. He's been by far their best pitcher, at least over the past couple months. 2.78 ERA in his last 8 starts. And while the Nationals keep kind of losing games, that hasn't been the case when Gray's been on the mound. The Nats have won 6 of 8. The last 8 times Gray has towed the rubber. So he's certainly been sort of the guy that's cashing tickets. If you're backing the Nationals. On the other side, Merrill Kelly has had a fantastic season. I'm a Merrill Kelly guy. He's a former KBO guy, of course. Played with the Landers, or formerly SK Wyverns, for a few seasons. He's been fantastic. You look at his season-long numbers. There's not much to not like there, but I found it surprising. 11 straight starts. Merrill Kelly's given up at least 1 earned run. So while he's very consistently good, the Nationals are probably going to get something here based on, sort of looking at the fact that 11 straight starts, he's given up at least 1 run. And I like the fact that the Nats saw him earlier this year. So even though he shut them down and had a good game, struck out 10, was really sort of dominant there, the Nats at least had exposure to him, which I think can help them here. So when I look at all of that, the fact that these bullpens aren't that different and Arizona will give up runs late, you give me a 1.5 with the Nationals with Josiah Gray, who I think has been fantastic, and he's a guy I've looked to play on at times. I do think there's value there. So Nationals +1.5 to avoid the sweep, to snap a 4-game winning streak. Won't be surprised if they steal this one, but the +1.5 should be a good value. I expect a tight game, and I think it has a great chance to win.
Thanks for that, Trig. Guys, my best bet for the Thursday slate here. It's an early start, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Heading to our nation's capital here, Washington hosting Arizona. We're going good versus bad, hot versus cold, however you want to say it. It's Kelly versus Gray. I'm betting at action and in the overnights, looking at the Wager Talk Live odds screen here, guys, low water mark of -137. So make sure to check your sports book here. But we do get the favorite, the D-backs, at a moderate price here in the day slate, and a couple reasons why, guys. Going into the Wednesday slate here, Wednesday night slate, we're recording this early. The D-backs have won 7 of 9 games, so really playing good baseball, and they're starting to stretch here. What I'm looking to be betting on Arizona. First off, they're one of the best teams. I mean, if things go right, they might have the best record in the National League by the start of Thursday action. And they have 4 straight series against teams under 500. So they're likely going to be rattling off some wins here in the NL West. And they're up against the Nationals. Guys, Nationals have not been all that great this year. They've lost 6 of their last 8 heading into Wednesday night again, guys. So not playing good baseball. And last thing here, home road splits. Washington Nationals just 12-20 at home. And Arizona on the road, 16-11 going into Wednesday night. So we actually get a good road team versus a team that's really struggled at home. Overall, guys, D-backs are the side. Again, -137, low water mark right now. So that's going to do it for the Thursday show here. Short and sweet on the short Thursday card. Early starts, guys, so make sure to get in your action. Make sure to check out wagertalk.com. Bunch of free plays up and available. Also, half off pricing. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video, reply below, guys. Thanks for tuning in. That does it for the Thursday slate. We'll be back Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern, right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. That does it for First Pitch. Thanks for tuning in. Cash those tickets.